How's
Welcome,
it?
welcome. We are live. Tim's in the back room. I'm going to bring him on here in just a minute, but I wanted to give you guys some thoughts on the overall market. The bull thesis right now is that as we're moving into Q2 earnings, that those earnings are going to be pretty good, and we're going to have higher earnings and the potential down the stream for a lower interest rate. Why do we say that? Because the Fed definitely came out a little bit more dovish right now. He did say that he was seeking more confidence before cutting, but and that the labor market was cooling, but that it was likely necessary to loosen monetary policy in preparation for the fact that largely he's already patting himself on the back and saying that inflation has been conquered without the loss of a lot of jobs. So it is an indication that he is going to be taking modest steps towards dovishness if he wasn't just right out dovish. So the bottom line is the Fed thinks he won. It was interesting to me. I'm not going to get political at all, but in regards to the upcoming election, it was the two Republicans that came out and questioned him with the hardest tones, almost with an implication or threat to suggest do not cut rates before the election. I'm going to leave it to you guys to interpret why. You can let me know. Don't let me know in the comments. I hate the political stuff. But let me just, we're going to get into the overall market. I have to touch on Tesla, even though today's going to be largely crypto focused, but Tesla, an absolute beast, hasn't given us a single red candle, I believe, in the last 10 days. I believe when I looked at the chart last, we were near 91 to 93% up from the moment that we broke out, which is an absolutely incredible run up. And then we saw Nvidia has been joining the party, hitting that target that I gave 2 weeks ago, right before 4th of July. We were looking at calls at around 122.90, and the goal was, I said, if we get above 122.90, then we're going to be on a clear path to 132, and we hit it today. Now, there's the big question with SMCI, NVIDIA, AMD. Are these going to just break out? They've come up to their resistance. Are they going to have enough momentum and steam to break out above their resistance and go all the way back to all-time highs? Well, I'm going to show you some of these charts, and the first thing that you're going to see is that we're up at the top of these charts, up against resistance, and volume has fallen off the cliff. Volume has absolutely rolled over on everything. Right now, as I've said, I think every single video, but I'm going to keep repeating it, the perfect bull push forward is a price move, a volume increase, and a momentum thrust. And all that we have is a price up. Let's bring Tim on and get his thoughts on the market this week. Tim, how you doing?
Doing good. I was telling you before the show, lost my voice earlier this week, or last week, end of last week, and doing a lot better now. Glad to have my voice mostly back. And it has been, I'll tell you this, Josh, it has been a roller coaster over the last week or so with this price action in the crypto world, the stock world. I've been watching that Tesla stock as well, and I was bullish on Tesla. But if you had told me we'd be at 260 a week and a half ago, if you told me we'd be at 260 right now, I would have thought you were crazy. That seems absolutely amazing. But I'm glad to see the bullishness paying off.
Well, as a crazy man, predicting Tesla would get back to 300 in 2024. We were in a spot where I began to get a little bit concerned. There was that one day where after we had touched 200 and we came down to 169, I started coming out and hedging my bullishness and say, okay, guys, maybe 300, but maybe just 240 by 2024 and 300 by 2025. Now, what exactly, I know that they've had some better numbers, but what exactly has driven this massive price swing up fully? I don't think that anybody knows. Largely, if it was EV related, you would think that all the other EV companies would come up, and some will say they've come up. In my opinion, they've come up a little bit. All right, it's Tesla that's burning rocket fuel right now, And we've not had a single red candle yet. Now we're up against the first resistance that I had warned in the Stocks with Josh Discord and the Stock Squad Patreon. The first resistance that I warned would truly be a problem for Tesla, which is this area of 262. Now, having said that, it is very hard for me to imagine that we're not going to hit my high target above 280. And I'll tell you why. And if you guys are following some of the charts that we've been laying out today, one of the things that we normally see at the tail end of a bullish move is a higher high on lower momentum. So even after this initial thrust of momentum comes to a peak and it begins to cool off, we ultimately will get a higher high, yet still on a second smaller push up. We are still at $262. We're still operating off of the initial move breakout of the RSI, which means that this actually, if we looked at it from that perspective, there is absolutely momentum left in the tank. If Tesla wants to go to 300, it absolutely can right now. And if we take a step back, Tim, and we look at the historic chart, Tesla's done this largely 3 times before, that it's had a single move breakout under a 30-day window of around 100%. Like I said at the opening, we're at 93%. And so really Tesla is just doing what Tesla does, but there's going to come a moment of reconciliation, July 23rd, Tesla's earnings, where it's going to have to be held, up to, you get to hold the feet to the fire and see whether or not it deserves all this pump. If they come out with, better than expected earnings and some positive forward guidance and some of their bigger goals with a near time frame, then yes, we're going to go absolutely nuts with Tesla, and we'll see 300, and we'll have done it again over. There was one time we did 120% pump in 30 days, and so don't underestimate Tesla right now. But having said that, I can see where this month's going to end up. We look at the SPY, we're in a ridiculous price point of being on the top of our ascending wedge. That is such a historic classic bull trap. But it doesn't mean that it's time to short anything, because in this final enthusiastic push up of stocks, you really can't limit how high they're going to go, because there's a ton of money that's waiting to pile up at the right moment to go short. And what happens there is that becomes a bear trap. And so it can get really choppy at the top of the range. Just get your thoughts. Did you catch any of the Fed's talk today? What was your opinion of the interest rate dilemma?
I heard a little bit of it, read a bunch of stuff afterwards. I had some different tasks I was working on during it. I was interested when you started your intro and you were kind of like, oh, I think he was leaning a little dovish. I guess it's because I keep going back and forth with him. I kind of walked away saying slightly hawkish, but overwhelmingly super neutral, like he's been for the last 6 months. It's like he's playing poker, Josh, and he has a really good hand, and he doesn't want us to know what that hand is. Because he'll say on one breath, like you mentioned, like I think the thing that a lot of people, especially in the crypto world, are listening to is when he said, I don't know if the data and the numbers are reflecting that inflation is under control, right? So we're going to put that in the hawkish category. But then again, he also said, well, I don't want to hurt the economy by keeping rates too high too long. And to which on my show here about an hour ago, I said this, like, some people don't like Jerome Powell. I think Jerome Powell actually has been doing a very good job over the last little bit. I commend him for saying, you know what, I have a lot of pressure from, honestly, I know I'm like you, I don't love the political game, but from both the left and the right, both sides have kind of been pressuring him to lower interest rates. They both have incentives for wanting that to happen. And he's not doing it. He's sticking to his guns. He's saying, my job is to curb inflation and get inflation under control. I don't believe it's under control, so I'm going to keep the interest rates high. I just wish he would have started sooner. I'm sure you were tracking, but remember back in February of 2022, when everybody, I joked on my show, I said everyone and their brother and their mother and their mother's dog knew that we had an inflation problem. When you print trillions of dollars, you have an inflation problem. And he came out and he said, oh, the data shows everything's good, the economy's good, and money's still under control. And we all knew he was crazy. And it's just one of those things that makes me think,
Transitory.
Josh. I'm like, I just think I'm like, if he had not been so dovish back then and begun the process of raising rates sooner and more aggressively, could we now, right now, be in a spot where we could be cutting rates? It's a great what if. Hindsight's 2020. You can't go back and change history. It is just something I think about. I'm like, I remember when he was irresponsible, and I wish he would have not been. But I do think now he's been more responsible than some people give him credit for.
That's very interesting. You know, my take on it was that he was dovish. The likelihood of a September 25% basis point cut popped up a little bit. And so I think there was a little interpretation. I would agree largely he was neutral.
Yeah.
You know, I'm neutral on Fed Powell. I don't love the man. I don't hate the man. To be honest, I think he's done a pretty good job. Inflation has come under some control. The economy's still moving strong. I don't personally know how anyone, you know, survives with the cost of goods. You know, you can just, you know, search TikTok for grocery bill and you'll see people that had a duplicate of their Instacart order from just a handful of years back, $125 worth of goods. You know, same with Walmart. You can turn right around and reorder that order. And they've posted that $125 order went to $440. And I do not understand how folks that are not winning at the game of Wall Street are surviving this. It absolutely baffles me. The only way, you know, I'm with my kids trying to buy, you know, whenever we're out, I'm trying to get them a meal. You know what I'm saying? Keep people eating over here. Okay, well, hey, I just want to, first of all, I just want to say, guys, let's thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you for the likes. Appreciate you guys being here. We're going to answer the question today. Is Bitcoin, you know, is it going lower? I think it's an extremely important question. I don't know what Tim's answer is. We have not talked before the show. I'm coming out, you know, with a strong opinion regarding the chart. You know, we're going to get to the bottom of it. And I'm going to promise you guys, if Tim and I can stay on top of our technical game, I'm going to promise you guys a lightning round of your stocks and crypto. So whatever you guys want us to look at. I have to acknowledge my man Stock Up with Larry Jones. He said, congrats to everyone that bought Tesla under $200. I know my man Larry bought Tesla under $200 because we talked about it all the time. What are you buying? I'm buying some Tesla. So, you know, I know he's up today big. Matter of fact, he told me just the other day what percentage of his portfolio was up. I won't repeat that. That's his business. But it was sitting pretty good. And I think Tesla has contributed to that. All right. Let's... you know, before let's just go through a little bit, you know, you know, guys, let's get those likes up above 200. You know, let's pump this video out. This is Tim. He has a show called Trading Bros. And I always leave the link to his show in the description of the video, and I will also put it in the top pinned comment for you guys to go over and subscribe to him. I think he's doing great technical analysis. One of the reasons he's on the show with us on Tuesdays is because I have a long-term plan of helping people get a better handle on their technicals, and you know, I found a cheat sheet for that. Now, I can run the technicals in my sleep. I'm looking at charts when my eyes are closed, and no, that's not a joke. I bet you do too, Tim, don't you? You see the charts when your eyes are closed?
You look in the clouds sometimes, and you can see formations forming in the clouds. And,
yes,
you know, there's that meme of lightning strikes. A lightning strikes in a falling channel.
That's a multi-year journey, and you know, so one of the cheat sheets for that is to use LUXALGO because it really is good at a number of things. One of them is giving you support on the daily time frame, support and resistance. It'll always give you sort of a low price. If it's breaking down and there's a sell signal on it, it'll come back to it. If there's a high price and it's moving up, well, you know where you could reasonably consider taking profit. Most beginning traders have no idea where to buy and no idea where to sell. And it's not, I wouldn't call it a long journey to learn the technicals, but it was a multi-year journey for me. And then I came along one day and I started looking at the LUXALGO suite and testing my technicals against it. And I thought, you know what, people could use this to to have a little bit of a better handle of at least judging whether or not they've snapped their lines correctly. And so Tim, he's actually, I think, an expert on LUXALGO, and so that's one of the reasons why he came on the show on a weekly basis, is to help teach you guys that. And so we will be using LUXALGO. It's also available in the top pinned comment for you guys to check it out. Let me just quickly run through and see what some of the questions are for today. People are asking if I live in the south side of Chicago. I have a secret to share with everybody. I've been in Hawaii since June. I snuck out over here, guys, and I'm living. I'm not joking. I'm living in downtown Waikiki, just about half a block away from the beach. And you know, the condo that I'm renting, they don't really have what you call real windows here, because you know there's no need for air conditioning or heat here 24/7. So I'm right on the, you know, city's right beneath me, hustle and bustle, and it sure is loud. So yeah, I got to avoid the garbage truck coming by in the morning. I'm going to be here until February because my daughter's having a baby, and I'm coming out here to support her and her husband. We're going to get into ETH, Solana. Palantir is having an incredible run. If you guys watched the show carefully, when Palantir was on an ascending parallel channel, and it was hovering right above $20, it was sort of a moment of do or die. And I said, guys, if we lose $20, then this thing could go as low as 14. But it stayed there, consolidated, and began to turn up. And at $22, I told everybody, this is extremely bullish, the fact that we've not broken down. And as we've climbed back through that parallel channel, I said right away, guys, hey, the top of this channel is $29, and now we're knocking on that door. Now, can it do more than $29? Yes, it can, but $29 was really my primary profit target. And so this is where I'm looking to raise my stop loss when we get up into that lofty top of the channel and touch it. That's where I'm going to want to raise my stop loss and potentially lock some in. Now, you know, we could actually run on Palantir, you know, well into the 30s, but I don't want to walk away with a dime less than $29 per share. Those are just my thoughts on Palantir. But that's been an incredible play. Solana, we're going to have to touch on Solana today. Because I've been bullish on Solana. Solana is killing it from a technical perspective this bull cycle, and I'm going to just make a few comments about Solana, Tim, and then we'll just kick technicals off there. I'd like to look at a broader time frame. We're gonna, you know, we never follow a clean, straight path. We're gonna make curves in the road. I'm going to go into Bitcoin next and give you my overall thesis on whether or not we're going lower. But let me just take a quick break and give you some thoughts on Solana, and then I'm going to have Tim give some thoughts on Solana. So Solana has taken an interesting #1 spot just here in the last month. It's risen to the crypto with the highest number of monthly active users, surpassing all other cryptos, which is absolutely incredible. So it's surged. It was, I believe, in the 5th place, and now it's in the 1st place. It's ahead of Ethereum, which you got to stop and acknowledge that. You know, Solana's dubbed themselves the Ethereum killer. And no, I don't think that Ethereum's going anywhere. And yes, I'm bullish on Ethereum. But, you know, there's like, let's take ADA for a minute. Now, I hate to dog on the ADA people, but ADA's not doing anything technically right now significant enough to be a threat to Solana or Ethereum, but they're a layer 1 and they're supposed to. So Solana, though, is doing something technically to pose a threat to Ethereum. It's actually taken over that #1 spot for monthly users. Now, where is Ethereum ahead of Solana? Where is Solana unable to touch Ethereum's position? Well, that's in transaction fees. They've gathered $1.8 billion worth of transaction fees. They're first place there, which is more or less a reminder that we're all getting gouged when we're using Ethereum. Not bearish on Ethereum. It's an important technology. But at this moment, we're going to give Solana a little moment to shine. Just out of curiosity or just for kicks and giggles, I wanted to give you the 2nd place for monthly users, and that's Tron is in 2nd place, and Toncoin is in third place. And, in a recent video I did talking about my top 8 cryptos that I was buying, I made the point that, that it's a whole different set of cryptos that are winning this bull cycle. And if you're not in them and you don't even know which ones they are, then your portfolio is not winning. And Tron and Ton are, you haven't even really probably heard of those names. You guys were thinking ADA and DOT. And they're, these guys are the ones, they're the platforms that are being used after Ethereum, after Solana, then Ethereum, then Tron, then Toncoin. So actually it was 1.8 billion transactions for Solana and 1.75 billion fees collected for Ethereum. So with that long overview, Tim, what are your thoughts right now on Solana's success over Ethereum?
Yeah, I want to first go talk about something for anyone who doesn't know a lot about the fundamentals of crypto. I actually didn't know what you just said about Tron, and it makes
Isn't
a
that
lot of
mind
sense.
blowing?
You want to know the evidence that the crypto market is currently being manipulated? It's because Tron is one of the most active volume. Tron coin, it's been around for a while. It's not talked about as much, but is widely used for pretty big manipulative movements often. I don't know how much I believe in Tron's long-term success, but for right now, it's very, very Tron represents like the institutional side of money investing before the institutions are really involved. Like now, the institutions getting into crypto are probably gonna be able to manipulate price all on their own. But Tron is the old guard of good old classic price manipulation. So that's pretty funny that I didn't know that. That's good you brought that to my attention. Solana, let's get to Solana's charts. We'll start off way out on the weekly chart. And I can tell
you know what?
that,
Can I just interrupt you for a moment on
yeah.
your commentary regarding Tron? I just had a thought that I shouldn't share, but I have to. Years ago, before Donald Trump became president, he was in a book. I forget the author. It'll come back to me in a minute. And the author was actually talking about public relations, and his commentary was, now this is going to get people all fired up. His commentary was that Donald Trump, he had just gotten into an affair with Marla Maples, or I forget who, but anyways, his marriage was over, and he was at this major event, a big concert, and he was with this guy who wrote the book, and comments about him, and he said, "Hey man, I know you're under a lot of negative pressure right now. You want to just slip out and avoid the crowd." And Donald Trump said, "No, we're going to take a tour right through the crowd." And and what that guy realized, he kind of made a point in his book, right? This is all pre-presidency. He made a point that no PR is bad PR. Okay. Now, this is not a commentary on the president. It's a commentary, or the ex-president. It's a commentary on Tron. So Tron's up here, with a bad reputation. But I'm going to tell you that, the fact that they've got, now I'm not advocating them. I actually am not, we'll have to cover Tron at another time. I haven't done any deep dives on the technicals, so you're offering more. But I will tell you that even if you are a crap coin, if you're in the spotlight, it matters. So I don't know. I just had to share that little commentary. Regarding Tron.
Yeah. Absolutely. This is not the episode to get into the fundamental side of all the coins. It's just funny. We'll have to talk about Tron a little bit later. But yeah, we can go and do some Solana. And from a charting perspective, if you go ahead, I shared my screen, right? I think.
Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, good. All right. So when you look at this, it really looks on the weekly chart like Solana really hasn't even had much of a correction whatsoever. It is down. It's actually one of the least severe coins. It had about a 43% drop in price from the highs of the bull market down to where it did bottom around 119, at least so far. But there's some signs here that I'm seeing. I'm very bullish on Solana long term as well, from a fundamental and a chart reason, a technical reason. And one of the reasons why is when you come out to the weekly charts, oscillators, these are actually extremely, extremely bullish. I'll explain why. Stochastics has been bottomed out now for a while, but this is the one I really like. RSI right now with a double bounce off of the 50. That's actually extremely strong level of support for the bulls that, yeah, if you were to go to like the daily chart or the 4-hour chart, you might find this overextended. But the weekly chart, longer time frame, that's a defense level that when you cross below the 50, that kind of signals the bears have kind of at least short term taken control. As long as we keep defending that 50, that's actually the bulls got to their weakest point, but they're ready to defend. You also can see on the LUXALGO oscillator, the money flow that has been negative now since April, since those highs, is starting to slowly curve and go to the upside. Now, and you might say, well, the oscillator's not necessarily that low. We're looking at the weekly chart. Look at the last two places the oscillator has turned from being bearish back to bullish, right in this same camp. And when I take a look here, let me move some of these oscillators down
I
just
will
so I
say
only
that you're
look.
going fast, Tim.
I'm going fast. Okay. All right. So I'm looking at the different things I'm seeing on the oscillators that make me very, very bullish, as the oscillator in LUXALGO is now sitting roughly about 37, 36. I look at the history. What happens on the weekly chart during a bull market for where we should expect weekly chart to pull back? And if I go back to the last couple of times during this bull market that we've been at these levels on the LUXALGO oscillator, you go back to September of 2023. That was when the bullish momentum for everybody kind of started. And then you go back here to June of 2023. And that's where we had a nice little pump in Solana's price for a couple of weeks here before it had a small correction. Overwhelmingly, to understand and appreciate this, I don't have enough history on the weekly chart for Solana. Let me show you on Bitcoin in the last bull market, right? So the bull market, some people are going to say they have different opinions. I'm the type of person that you never know you're in the bull market till you have a little bit of hindsight. The bull market really started when Bitcoin bottomed out December of 2018. And then the bull market ended when we topped out in November of 2021. Take a look with me at the oscillator on the weekly chart, that where we bottomed out. So we got a super, super low oscillator reading at 8 when we got to the bear market bottom, and then turned into a bull market. But then after that, throughout all of this bullishness, the oscillator never again would fall below about 27, give or take, that area. Kind of an area we're sitting at right now when it comes to Solana. But all of the bottom signals came around this flash. That's where this oscillator reversed. And so in a bull market, my point here overwhelmingly is in a bull market, you're not going to see the oscillators go into full oversold territory. Moving back over to Solana, again, it's a similar thing. You can go back and look at January of 2021 when we did have a little bit of a dip before the rally. We only pulled back to about 29. And as we currently are sitting close to this area, again, 35, 36, we're back in these areas where these are the bottoms for oscillators during a bull market. This gives you a little extra encouragement to say, all right, yes, we're still super high. Yes, we're only 40% down. But on these longer time frames, the oscillators are actually screaming, this is the bottoming out territory before the bulls take back over control. Now, that's just from that perspective. When we look at LUXALGO indicators, last thing I'll do here, Josh, then we'll go back. This is also a major bullish level on the weekly chart. An order block that is extremely, it was at one point supposed to be resistance, but that long red bar signals exhaustion from bears and less exhaustion from bulls. The yellow makes it be a breaker block, a strong, strong level of support. We've wicked down into this blue cloud called the smart trail that's also support. But as long as we defend this yellow line around 125 and don't close a weekly candle below it, this remains an amazing buying level for long-term purchases on Solana. So from the oscillator perspective and the indicator perspective on this large weekly time frame, I could go into daily and 4-hour and try to mess with a lot of things. But if you're just a person who wants to buy and walk away, there's a lot of arguments from LUXALGO right now that this is a great buy spot for Solana for probably the next, at least next couple of months, if not the entire year.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And it's basically from my fundamental view. Tim gave you some technicals. I gave you some fundamental technical accomplishments of Solana. I think that they are the biggest competitor in crypto from the standpoint of one smart contract to rule them all. I think that there's going to be niche technologies that are going to outdo them in certain specific areas, but these guys are the big house, in my opinion. Personally, I've become very bullish on Solana for a lot of reasons. The first was their technical performance compared to all the other legacy coins. They sort of left them in the dust, and the fact that they got pretty close to their previous all-time high, following in suit with Ethereum and Bitcoin. It's definitely one to keep on the radar. And yes, I like to
Absolutely.
buy it. To be honest with you, I'm okay with it coming down. I'd like to buy it. That 125 seems a very sweet spot to accumulate. And I'm going to go out on a bold limb and prediction, because you know what? I've already put my money where my mouth is, so I might as well line my mouth up with my money and tell you guys that for me, I feel as confident buying Solana under $200 as I did Tesla when it was 140. And I think that when Solana begins to make its move, it's going to melt faces, and people are going to be asking, the FOMO is going to be kicking in, and they're going to like, how do we get back up here at 260? How do we get back up here at 300? And they're going to have missed that bottoming sideways breaker bar technical lux that Tim just gave you. They're going to have missed the whole conversation. But if you guys showed up, I need you to do two things. I need you to hit that like and take note of my bullishness on Solana, but don't out-bull the bull. Let me explain that for a minute. I'm going to incrementally buy it. That's all I'm going to do. I'm not lump sum, pull out the credit cards buying Solana. I'm incrementally buying it while it's beat down and forsaken. But we're going to get to the bigger conversation here about whether or not Bitcoin is, if the down move is over. Let me just take a quick minute, guys. Let's get those likes where they need to be. I have a like goal that I hit 1,000 likes in the course of a video, and let's see, we're about 20 minutes into the video, and we're not at 500, so we're not where we need to be. I gotta reach my markers too. Josh, Tron is used for payment more than any crypto I use. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do some more research on Tron. It's not been a big position of mine. Will the SPY go any higher? It does appear to me that we're making a push for 560. I think that this week we have the CPI and PPI, and that can throw the market for a loop. But even if it did, I have a little bit, now I could be wrong about this. I don't have a strong opinion, but I'm noticing by a lot of my research of other analysts, not mine, that people are kind of bullish on the banks. The banks are kind of coming up here at the beginning of this week as we're getting close to the first round of bank earnings that are hitting this Friday. And, you can treat the banks like an indicator. I've said it many times. If the banks are making money, then everybody's doing good, because the banks are where you go to put your money. It's where you put your deposits, and they're only making money if they're taking money from you in form of deposits and lending money. And so if they're doing well, it means that the economy is doing better than people think. And so, we can't get too, I am high alert caution on the SPY and the overall market, as well as all of big tech, because they're up against resistance. The SPY's gotten crazy. It's on top of the ascending bearish wedge. But having said that, you can't load up the bearish position just yet. I'm going to pull up my Bitcoin chart. Tim, what are your thoughts on the overall economy right now?
Yeah, it just keeps going up and to the right. I mean, it's pretty normal in election years for this to happen. It just seems to always be this way, and sometimes you can get a little bit of a nice run after the election as well. Sometimes there's a little bit of a dip after the election, but I was looking at this historically, and I'm not going to spend too long, but it's we're seeing a lot of similarities to what the market looked like in 2019. Now, it was before the election year. Obviously, election year was 2020, but we see right now crypto going down and the stock market going up. If you go back and look at what price looked like in the stock market versus Bitcoin in 2019 into 2020 before COVID dropped everything and then restarted it. But we saw a little bit of a divergence in this as well. It's kind of like we're repeating history. And if we do repeat history, that makes me bullish on both the stock market and crypto. Obviously, crypto will outpace the stock market just because of sizes. But I'm looking at the similarities between now and 2019, and it's leading me to be a little bullish on both of them long term.
All right, thank you for that commentary. Let's dive into. I'm going to go into my view on Bitcoin. So let's just take a minute, guys. I've got the 21 EMA up on the chart. I've got the logarithmic view of Bitcoin with the Fibonacci's on it. The red line represents the previous all-time high that Bitcoin failed repeatedly to push through and open a candle above. And I've made it very clear that if it ever had, it would have been off to the races, and the next fib level above is 171. Let me make sure I've not moved my chart. $171. So the day that we ever get a candle that opens and closes above that opens and closes on a monthly time frame, guys, above this 68,346, then you can count on this going up to 177. 171 from the perspective of the fib. However, that never happened. Now we've got another problem, this 21 EMA, which normally during bull cycles is highly respected, and it's extremely unusual that after we came up out of the lows of winter right here, it was actually an ominous sign about the overall strength of Bitcoin when we broke beneath it. Okay, so this is unusual to have broken beneath it. No other time in the previous Bitcoin cycles had Bitcoin price closed beneath the 21 SMA in the past. This is the very first time. And so that was an unusual event. And now we've done it again. We've done it after failing at this area of resistance. We've closed beneath the 21 EMA. And so I'll just leave you guys with this thought. But let me take you back in history before I make my final point. This is a perfect example of the previous winter and the previous, so the white line going down the middle is the halving event. And this is the winter low of the 2017 bull cycle. And when we broke above the 21 EMA, you can see that we remained in a bullish trend after the halving event, and we skipped along the top of the 21 SMA. And it was only after we broke beneath it that we got into some big trouble. And I just want to make this commentary. We have come down, I think, 25% from the current Bitcoin top. Let me just give you guys this fact. So when in the previous Bitcoin cycle, when we had broken beneath the 21 EMA, 21 SMA, if I say that wrong 3 or 4 times, guys, just forgive me. When we broke beneath the 21 SMA in the previous cycle, we went down 55.59%, okay? And we did eventually recover, and each of these candles represents a week. It took us almost 2 months after we've bottomed, moving sideways, to begin to make a descending parallel channel, which we broke to the upside, back above the 21 EMA, and then popped one more time, making our final high. Now, we are in this same boat. We have broken beneath the 21 SMA, which is a big problem. We've failed multiple candle pushes through the previous all-time high, and we are only 26% from that high. And I'm just going to tell you guys that, and then we came down with this really strong red candle. And in my last Bitcoin video, I told you guys that we had nibblers and not large wholesale Bitcoin buyers, and that not to expect a V-shaped recovery. Now, it's already been a handful of days since we came down last week, and this is a dead cat bounce. This is not volume buying. Matter of fact, if I pop up, am I discouraging everybody yet? We'll see if my man Tim can offer you guys any hope. But I'll tell you this: knowledge is power, and this is how we're going to gain big wealth with the story I'm telling right now. This is where I'm going after big wealth, fam, and this is how I'm doing it. So we've got a 26% downturn. I think the probability of us doing 32%, which is significantly less than the last time we broke beneath the 21 SMA, which would bring us back to this $49,000 level. I think that it is more than likely that that is the path we're on. Now, how confident am I? I would say a 60% likelihood that we're going down to the 49 and a 40% likelihood that we continue to build from here. If I would actually say that the three paths that I seem the most likely, the first is that we come back and hit 49. The second is that we simply move sideways with a slight lean up for the next 6 weeks and then begin to push back higher, so that largely the $55,000 to $53,000 range will have been our principal low. And the third being that we actually make a quick recovery and begin to climb higher, which I think has already been ruled out by the lack of buying volume. The other thing I wanted to point out to you guys, give me just one more minute. I want to point out this story. It's all over the place. It's on the only place that this story is not active is Tesla. Tesla's got increasing volume, and that's why I am bullish on Tesla. But if you're looking at the SPY, if you're looking at NVIDIA, if you're looking at Meta, I spent a lot of time on the Meta chart today. Very precarious. It doesn't mean that the price can't break higher. It just means that we are in a sketchy, lofty place. And on Bitcoin, you see this strong decrease in volume. And so there's no buyers here. Could the buyers flood in at any given moment? Yes. But this is a cautionary tale until we get back above that 21 SMA. Let's turn it over to Tim for reaction.
Yeah, great stuff in there. I don't usually look at the markets that way. I was looking at it. The 21 SMA, it's pretty close to, I don't usually often use the 21, but I will pull up Bollinger Bands, which contain the 20 SMA. And I've noticed if you go back and look at the history, like he said, it's pretty rare at this point in the markets to have already done this, but I've seen sometimes in the bull market where we have crossed below it. Again, I'll go back and I'll say my definition of bull market technically starts when you've hit the low for the bear market and you start to move to the upside. Well, remember I told you that I see a lot of similarities between what happened in 2019 and then what I see now after hitting a pre-halving high. Well, guess what happened back in 2019? We crossed pretty aggressively below the 20 SMA, which the 21 is going to be close, but not too far distant. We actually, I don't think we're going to have to repeat this part of history, but we actually spent some time beneath it before recapturing it, and then COVID messed up everything. I don't count COVID. It was a black swan event.
Can
but
you
then
give
once
us,
we recaptured
Tim,
it, we didn't give it back until May.
For everybody's reference, can you give everybody the days, minus the COVID part, give everybody the days from the top to the bottom of that move you were just referencing? Yeah, right there.
Absolutely. Let's take a look here.
Because
so
I kind of view I view that we're in that same spot personally.
It looks like it was a 26-week period. So the top here in June of 2019, the 24th, we bottomed out before COVID. If COVID had never happened, the bottom out probably would have happened here on December 16th area of 2019. And I'm assuming what you're going to want to look at here is how far are we away from the high back here in March?
Well, let's pull about 6 months. That's what we need.
We're at 17 currently, 26. You know what's crazy? That's putting us right here. I have said here for a while, I called this before when we hit the highs back here at 72 and we were close to this yellow line. That yellow line marks the halving event that happened in April. I told people, do not be surprised to move bearishly in the halving event and then sideways and boring, and we wouldn't look to make new highs for Bitcoin until August or September. So I put my box here at August. That's going to almost bring us right in. If we match 2019, that's going to bring us right into the same time period of that yellow box. As far as the rest of it, though, okay.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Well, I was like, as far as other things are going, because that was an interesting one I hadn't looked at a lot. There's a lot of other things that I am looking at right now that I'm more bullish on when it comes to Bitcoin. So let me go and show a couple of the things that I'm looking at that I think are showing us some positive signs. Now, the first one on the macro, this is the weekly chart still. We're in a falling trading channel. I think this is a very bullish thing long term. I have a couple of lines here drawn for levels that could be hit. One of them we already hit. I put it down here at 54,350. We went a little bit lower, that wicking lower. But that was one level that I thought was very, very important based off of, I'm a big believer in fixed range volume. You look for the gaps. A lot of people love the peaks or what I call shelves where you have high volume. But if you look at the history of Bitcoin's price, like let's just go back to the high of 2021, you'll notice a lot of the places where we reject from Bitcoin don't happen where we have high volume. They actually happen where we have very little volume. So if you go back here, we had a rejection twice right here on 25,000, very low volume. A rejection here on 32,000, very low volume. A rejection here at about 45,000, very low volume. And then now, of course, we're going back above. I'm looking here and saying, all right, very low volume here at 53. That's a good level for price to come back and to retrace back down to. If we lose that, what I'm looking at, the next gap, and I think there's a lot of support for this level, we're looking at about $50,000 is my next spot that I'm looking at. But what I could see easily happening and would not discredit my falling wedge pattern, falling channel pattern, excuse me. Let me get rid of my fixed range volume. I wouldn't be surprised to see Bitcoin, if it's at the bottom not in already, to have one candle that has a wick drop down. Let's pretend it's next week, drop down into that $50,000 mark, but then wick right back up and move back to the upside. And a comment you made, Josh, that I agree with you is something needs to change, but I actually see this as potentially being an encouraging sign for why the bulls could be coming back, is this right here. The volume since the top has been diminishing. I am a big school of thought person that manipulation is in play. I talked about it even earlier in the show. Tron, those who don't know a lot about Tron, it is a level where a lot of money gets exchanged, especially historically. But historically is actually shown that Tron seems to be most active during manipulative places in the market where the market's all going one way and is about to switch and change. That makes me think that Tron having high volume at these low levels, despite the fact that the rest of the space has low volume, is making me believe that we potentially could have a price to the upside. But even historically, you're going to notice sometimes, especially during mid-bull market pullbacks, it's the low volume that ends up being the spring or the trigger for the reversal. I mean, you have high volume here back in May of 2021. There's a lot of news. Elon came out very much against Bitcoin and the environmental impacts Bitcoin have. High volume. And then for a couple of weeks, still relatively high volume. But we had to get all the way over here into July, where if I were to go to a smaller time frame, for example, and go back to the daily chart, you're going to notice here, every single time we bottomed out here, the first one was the biggest, big volume. But then you look here, volume, spike, volume, spike. Guess where it does not have a volume spike? Right at the bottom of the movement. The volume doesn't actually come in until the confirmation of the bullish pressure. In the same thought, our volume is diminishing. We've had these spikes, which is one of the reasons why I don't think that this most recent bottom, from a volume perspective, I don't think that that's the bottom. Why? Because there was high volume. I think that there's going to be a low volume downward movement where no one really wants to move. Everyone's scared. So the very little bit of buying that the whales end up doing shows us a low volume, and then the volume will come back on the confirmation of the bullish momentum back to the upside. And I'm seeing this from a news perspective, a sentiments perspective, but even the charts perspective. Is there chart signs that maybe Bitcoin could go lower than 50K? There is, but I also see a lot of arguments for why 50K could be a very good last leg down for this move, a low volume bottom that confuses people, all the while whales and manipulators take advantage of our confusion and buy that dip up and send us back to highs.
Absolutely. I like your commentary. Sir Bud says that the sirens in the background is a prophetic warning or indication of the ominous decline ahead for Bitcoin. Guys, here's the main point I want you to take away. I have accurately predicted Bitcoin over the last couple of years. I was pounding the drums when we were at 15.5, declaring it an absolute bottom, and declaring it a strong buy at 21,000, 24,000, 25,000, all along the way. And I'm telling you, for whatever it's worth, I am the most excited I've been about loading my bags right now in the next 2 months than the excitement, I don't want to call it greed, but my greed level is where it was when Bitcoin was back at 25K. I want to be accumulating my favorite cryptos over the next 2 months. Now, I want to be clear because I don't want you guys to get it mixed up. I am saying that we're going to have, and Tim is saying the same thing. I don't know how quickly we're going to flash down and get back up. That can happen on a Sunday night at 2 a.m. And
Exactly.
then by that point, Solana's up 30%, and you're going, hey, wait, what? I'll buy on the next pullback. I'll buy it on the next pullback. Well, good luck. People are going to buy Tesla on the next pullback as well. But I'm going into the summer, looking forward to this accumulation phase. And I believe that we're going to be moving out of it October, November, and December. That's kind of my game plan. Could I be a month off? Sure, I could be a month off, but my greed level's rising, not my fear level. Have I taken some hit in the cryptos I own? Absolutely. Absolutely. I looked at one of my long-term crypto account and I was like, I didn't even know it could go that low. There was some loss in that account. But you know what? I spent 10K yesterday on crypto, and I'm going to be averaging some big numbers. Very likely for the next 2 months, this is going to be the biggest buying moment of the year for me. And I'm believing that I'm going to see 200% gains by December of this year. And I mean, to me, that's incredible. Tesla hasn't even given me that. So that these coins can run if you're in the right coins. Some coins have been left behind. My last show was about coins that had not been left behind. Let's do this, guys. We're going to do the lightning round that I promised. As soon as we get the likes up a little higher, while the likes are climbing, and I'm gonna, let's see here, 500 likes. We're halfway to target. Appreciate it. Thank you guys for showing up. I do appreciate you guys. All right, I'm taking recommendations. I saw one earlier on a coin that I like a lot that actually has been showing some relative strength, going ahead of Bitcoin, and that's Bonk. Now Bonk, I actually have an up target of 4080 on Bonk. And I don't know, how unrealistic that is, but I have it in the charts. It's not a fundamental psychological pretzel of ideas. It's a real technical prediction of 4080, which would put us at a pretty sizable run up. And so I'm bullish on it, but let's go through. We're going to take some recommendations from you guys here. But while we're doing that, I'm going to let Tim throw up his what is the weekly? I want to look at a little bit longer time frames, Tim, for what we could come back to. Could you throw up the Lux and give us where we're at? Are we under a buy signal right now or a sell signal? And are we what are you on, the weekly, or what are you looking at?
This is weekly, so you have to understand, because Bonk's not that old of a project, it's only going to have so much information that we can utilize. We are currently under a false buy, or like a bad buy signal, where we pretty much got a buy signal at the top. What I'll say here is bullish, as long as we continue to hold it. You guys see this blue cloud right here. This is called the smart trail. When it's blue, it's a strong level of support. If it ever turns red, like, let me see if the daily chart has it red. Yeah, so on the daily chart, there's a red one. That's a level of resistance. So a shorter time frame, like the daily chart, we have some resistance sitting above us, just a little bit higher up towards, what is that, 4 zeros and then a 3-1. But on the weekly chart, longer perspective, we're actually sitting in a, I drew just kind of really quickly, a little bit of a, whether you want to call it a channel or a rising wedge, because it's technically kind of constricting. We're in a rising channel right here that has a take profit up high, back at resistance, back around those 4 zeros and then a 5. And we're sitting on what I think for the weekly chart is pretty good support on this blue smart trail. Has the weekly chart ever been red? Yeah, it was barely red at the beginning, but as a whole, very strong support. All
right, we're gonna do. I want to give people really basic, and I want to cover with the lightning round. So I want to get as many covered as possible. So my buy on Bonk, my ideal buy is 4025. 4020, 4025, and you can, if you see that price on Bonk, you know that Josh is buying some more. Let's cover.
Last thing I was going to say, Josh, bullish divergence on the weekly chart. That's a very positive sign. Bullish divergence.
Yeah, that is good.
Where the bottoms are getting higher, right? So the lows keep getting higher and higher, but the lows on the oscillators are getting lower. That's a divergence of strength. It's actually a reloading type of indicator that says, hey, we keep getting weaker and weaker and weaker, but the price is getting stronger and stronger, that's actually momentum for more room to the upside on the oscillator.
Okay, let's do this. We're gonna get off crypto for a brief second. We'll be right back on it. I cover micro strategies quite a bit. Let me know what the buy sell scenario on Lux is. Would you let Sudin know?
Do you want the
And
weekly or
zoom
the
in.
daily? Right.
Let's look at the daily, but could you zoom in a little bit, because I'm having a little trouble seeing your chart.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so this isn't necessarily the greatest support level, even though we bounced off an order block. The reason why is because that green bar communicates bullish exhaustion. The red bar communicates bearish exhaustion. There should have been more bullish exhaustion right here, but we did make a little bounce. On the daily chart, from an indicator perspective, let me get rid of some of the stuff on here. Look at that. We did hit our inverse head and shoulders pattern here not that long ago. But
we hey guys, we gave those technicals on this show, and they came exactly to pass the way we gave them. And so I want to just show you every single thing we're covering here. I mean, we're giving predictions, and they are consistently coming to pass when Tim and I are doing these technicals. So let's pay attention.
Yeah, that's a great example right there of a good hit, inverse head and shoulders. What I'm looking at right now, if you're looking to the upside, we're currently under a buy signal right now from it flashed back here, but I'm guessing it reloaded on this low. So we have a buy signal that has a couple things above it that would signal a potential level of resistance, probably around 1,500. So we're within the buy signal on LUXALGO. We have an order block in play, even though this is actually one that shows more bears get exhausted. But you have that red cloud, the bearish smart trail. All I need to know to say, are we going up or down? I need to know what is the strength of the oscillators. And as a whole, it's looking more bullish. It's not necessarily flashing bullish yet, but the oscillator here on the LUXALGO oscillator is rounding. We have a green reversal, and that money flow looks like it wants to turn over and start heading back up. If that happens, I think it would be a very easy route for MicroStrategy to get up back here at least to 1,500, if not picking up momentum and maybe getting a little higher towards this order block, which will have a little more resistance in it around 1,700.
Let's take the assumption for a minute that Bitcoin comes under more selling pressure. You made the comment that the support below that it recently hit of 1,250 was actually weaker because the green bar is longer than the red bar, which means that buyers will be more exhausted there than sellers. What would be the support directly beneath from your point of view?
Yeah, because of where it's signaling right now on the daily chart, I'm going to say this stop loss signal here on 1,100 looks interesting. But let me go a little bit lower, like to the 8 hour. Not seeing anything there. I got to go a little lower because it's not really giving me anything. There we go. Well, it's still going to give me that level. So this is why it bounced. The 4 hour, this actually shows as a bullish order block, which is actually kind of nice. And the lower I'm going, just so I don't know if you were watching, Josh, and paying attention. The lower I go, the more evidence of bullishness, right? So the lower time frames kind of trying to imply we're sitting on a lot of support right now. So maybe I need to reverse and go to the upside and see if there's anything popping up on these other ones. I mean, the 3 daily chart, we're hitting the more aggressive take profit of a short order. So a lot of evidence here. Is there a chance for lower? Yes, but a lot of the things I'm looking at here, Josh, kind of just telling me we really only have more upside to go. I mean, if I go way out here, we have smart trails back down towards 1,100 again, right below 1,100.
Okay,
overwhelming evidence
that's really
is
good,
shorter term bullish.
That's really good feedback. I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on MicroStrategies. Because I have a more cautious view on Bitcoin, I actually believe that MicroStrategies has, like Bitcoin, the opportunity to come up. But overall, I believe that we are going to probably form a double bottom and possibly retest that 1,250. And I see that if we were to get up and we got some rejection candles, I'd be looking to short it again. Keep in mind that I just made big bags shorting MicroStrategies, and so I'm watching for another opportunity on that. But I would tell you that, like he said, the move down has been so significant that it is possibly oversold and could have a relief rally, not back to all-time highs, but it could have a relief rally before going any lower. That would be my interpretation on MicroStrategies. Let's give ETH some respect. Now, guys, someone said, Josh, a month ago you were very bullish on ETH. I am very bullish on ETH. I think it's going to do incredible things with the ETF. I'm also believing that Solana is going to be following it. In its, sort of in its draft, you could say. I believe it's going to be following it to success. Let's throw up and look at a down target and up target for Ethereum real quick.
Yeah. So a long-term down signal that I had was actually 2,900, which is what we just bounced off of here not that long ago. If we keep dropping, let's say we go lower. This was a potential upward bounce that for Ethereum I had around 3,200. If we kept dropping, technically this sell order does have a limit of about 2750, maybe even down towards closer to 25. I believe there's liquidation charts that would say that as well. Let me see if the weekly is showing us, yeah, we bounced off of the smart trail on the weekly, which is bullish, but the bottom could bring us down towards 26. So I would say right now what I'm seeing from LUXALGO, I'm bullish like you are. Oh, I really love that though. We're seeing a lot of strength on the oscillators. In fact,
so wouldn't you say that because of how quickly we came down that we're still in a relief rally moment?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Good point. I don't know if what I'm looking for in buy signals right now, I don't think I'm writing everything up to $4,000. I'm probably writing trades back up to 3,400, 3,300, give or take. So back up to where we have this smart trail. If we beat that, if we get above there, this order block on the daily chart at 3,800, notice the large, move too far, the large green versus the smaller red bars. That means a lot more bulls get exhausted, less bears. I would imagine a lot of long positions, or what it implies is that less people will be willing to buy and a lot more people willing to take profit on long positions if we were to get up here to 3,800. But we have some resistance between us and that level. But what I'm looking at here, I'm actually seeing just now, might not be a bad thought. I might, after the show is over, have to go enter a long position. I've got my green reversal on Ethereum's LUXALGO oscillator. Green momentum and positive money flow showing up today. That to me is a great buy signal to ride back up into this red smart trail. Let's just call it kind of in the middle, 3,300. I think is a very interesting spot to watch. Back to some support levels we were just at back here in earlier in June. So short term, kind of bullish, I think, still for Ethereum. Longer term, if the bears still take control, could we move back down closer to 2,500? Potentially.
Yeah, I would lean towards believing that we are moving up slowly, inching our way back up. But I do personally believe that we're going to get an earlier than expected rejection and continue pressure to the downside. Yeah. So I would view the bullishness in that chart as a potential relief rally from the strong downturn. And the fact is that the market is still pumping, and so it can also influence Bitcoin. And overall,
from a fundamental standpoint, what's going to be very interesting to watch, though. Did my computer behind me turn off? Oh well. There used to be charts back there. Very black screen now. Between any time, technically, between now and the date that we're now looking at, about 9 days from now, the 18th, Ethereum's ETF should be live in the next 9 days. And Bitcoin traded positively into the exchange or to the ETF being live and then crashed briefly right after. Ethereum has been crashing into the news outlet. So there's this thing in trading called either buy the rumor, sell the news, or sell the rumor, buy the news. It looks like we've been selling going into the Ethereum ETF. Could we see the ETF going live give us at least a week or two of explosive positive action? I'm not promising back over 4,000, but could we see that be a trigger for some at least short-term bullishness? And then you think about the long term, and you're talking about if you're investing now for the next year at least, that is long-term bullishness to have one more feature for institutions to get their fingers into Ethereum,
absolutely,
into Bitcoin. And guess what's next? We talked about it earlier, Solana. Could we see a Solana ETF before the end of 2024? The answer is not definitely no. So
yeah.
All three of them could be really explosive here over the next year.
Guys, I'm going to get to a couple more. What I think made the comment that 1150 support for MicroStrategies to go up. I agree. That's actually my same support level. I will be very, very bullish for MicroStrategies when we get to that level. However, I do believe that we've come down so much that we're going to have a little bit of move up. As he said, the Ethereum spot ETF could bring things up. But then I believe that at the moment, my conviction is that we are in the summer months. They're going to include the latter half of July and August are going to lead us back to some sell pressure until we ultimately hit that fateful 50K on Bitcoin, could go sub 49K, and then I would see that a longer move up. And it's in that environment that I'm going to be watching that MicroStrategies chart to go long, and I hope that it's around 1150. That's kind of my benchmark goal. Let's get a couple more in. I think it's worthy to cover Coinbase and Doge. Tim, let's talk about Doge real quick. Let's give people some perspective on that.
Yeah, let me find that one on
I
my
find it
list.
hard
There
to
we go.
believe that Doge could break below 10 cents. Personally, it seems like that's such a strong area of support. I mean, 9 cents you get to.
So let me look at some things here. Actually, it's been a minute since I did. Let me turn this off for a second. I know I'm trying to get fast here, but I want to just take a look here. This is a symmetrical triangle pattern that should have broke to the upside, but ended up breaking to the downside. I don't think it's going to get this low, but technically speaking, the bearish breakout of that symmetrical triangle could see it go back down to 7 cents, a level we were at back in January.
That would be painful.
We've seen other coins do that, so it's not absurd. But I want to make sure I preface this by saying I'm not predicting that. I just was curious before I went forward with the rest of my TA. Let me go to the weekly chart and show you a good thing and a bad thing. Good thing, we're under sell order and we hit the first level of take profit. But there's two bad things I noticed right off the bat. We lost the blue cloud. It's no longer a level of support from our smart trail. That smart trail turned red and shot right back up here to 22 cents. We have an order block down here where in the range between 8 all the way to 7 cents, right there for that 7.7
Oh, that's called
cents
confluence, people.
Yeah, that's not what you want to see if you're thinking you're buying Dogecoin right this second. Let me look here. I mean, it's just not over. The oscillators are setting in lower lows on the oscillator, higher lows in price action, but you don't call it divergence officially until the bottom position is in. So that's bullish if today reversed and went to the upside, but there's not a guarantee of that. And remember I told you guys, I can't remember what coin we were looking at, that I said this was nice. I think Solana. Remember I said how nice it is to defend the 50 on the RSI like we did on Dogecoin back in January? We didn't do that. We lost the 50, which says I don't think it's absurd for the RSI on the weekly to get back down to these levels, back down to like 39. We're currently at about 43. So we could see a little bit more weakness come in on the oscillators. There's a lot. I know you didn't want to hear it, Josh. There's a lot of signs on that weekly chart saying that 7 cents is interesting.
No, I'm actually happy about it. I mean, I'm just going to position myself. The key thing, like I said, is going into this summer with a trade plan, an accumulation plan. You pick your favorite altcoins. In my last video, I told you my top altcoins. I didn't list Doge. I had Bonk in a more predominant position, and I do have a big bag of Doge, though, and that I'm intending to hold till the right peak moment. Hopefully that Elon, when Tesla's above $300, he'll give a little love and a shout out to Doge. He's been ignoring crypto largely this cycle, but if he did, it would be an instantaneous game changer, and I'm holding a good bag of Doge. But as far as swing trading, if we get a buy-in between 7 and 9 cents, we know that that support for a long time was that 14.3 cents, and we get in at 7.075. You're talking about 100 gain opportunity. You don't have to get too many swing trades at 100% gain. I could sit back and take that win. Okay, guys, we're gonna wrap it up right there. Thank you, Tim, for joining me. The likes are almost where they needed to get. I think they'll pop up. Let's Throw a couple of likes in there, guys. Any final thoughts going into the end of this week regarding your own personal buying and trading, Tim?
Yeah, I bought a lot this week, and it's not necessarily because I'm guaranteeing that the bottom's in, but I think you said it earlier. A healthy, even in your swing trading, a healthy DCA approach of dollar cost averaging, because there's no such thing as a crystal ball that will give us 100% of the answers all the time. Every single project that Josh and I have looked at, it's uncanny how many we've gotten right over the last couple of weeks since we've gotten to know each other, and we've been doing this TA for you guys. But we still make mistakes. We still will put a target for a buy order that I actually had this happen to me 2 weeks ago. I had a buy order on a coin that I missed the entry by 2 cents. And we're not talking about like a Cardano type coin. We're talking about a coin. The price was like $40 per coin. I missed my entry by 2 cents. It happens. So I'm a big believer in you do not buy and sell perfection. I tell people get rid of the word perfect.
I love that. That's a great word.
Buy and sell good. If you're at a good price level, buy. If it's a good level to buy it. If you're at a good sell order, sell it. People that wait to buy the exact peak of the bottom and sell the exact peak of the top, more often than not, miss the boat. And it doesn't matter if your analysis is good, your technical, your fundamental. It doesn't matter if you're perfect at making calls if you miss out on your calls because you're waiting for perfection and not settling for the good. Rich people, rich traders who have been trading for a long time, they sell and buy on good levels, not perfect.
I think that's phenomenal. And, I hope that people take away this simple idea from what I said today is that I'm going to be buying incrementally, whether we go up or down through the summer. This is a more active, put money to use environment. We're not buying the top here. We're not, trying to catch Ethereum above 4,000. We're not done with the crypto cycle, so we know we've got good days ahead of us. The real party probably will be in full swing in December, and the peak of Bitcoin is projected at around October of 2025. And so now we are down. We've been moving down. I showed you some concerning things in the Bitcoin chart, and so there's still threat of going down. And the environment of which it's largely going to probably see its worst moments is probably going to be in the next 2 months, if we haven't already seen it. But I think that it's more likely that we'll see a couple bad days ahead. Even if we pop back up, I think we're going to see some bad days ahead here in Bitcoin. Mark my words, in the next 30 days, we're going to see another rough moment in Bitcoin. But you don't want to start shorting MicroStrategies. You don't want to short, ETH on leverage because it's already come down a lot. And so it's going to bounce along the way. Appreciate all of you guys. Thank you for smashing that like. I saw the numbers jumped up. And we'll cover next week more. If you guys want to follow along next week with the LUXALGO indicators on your own computer, I'm going to leave a link for that in the top pinned comment. And make sure to catch Tim's channel at Investing Bros. I'm going to leave a link for that as well, so you guys can go over there and smash that subscribe. Appreciate each and every one of you. Appreciate you, Tim. Peace and blessings. Take care.